What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Open greatly with one of the most unique video concepts that I've put together so far, as I'm running 3 Pokemon that have access to a trio of punch moves and a total of 8 unique punch moves across the entire team, with Shadow Gengar on Sucker Punch, Shadow Punch and Drain Punch, Shadow Hitmonchan on Bullet Punch, Ice Punch and Fire Punch, and Lucario also on Bullet Punch, Power Up Punch and Thunder Punch. Now this video is going to be a bit shorter than usual, mainly due to the fact that this team was pretty damn hard to get any wins with. As you can imagine, it doesn't have the best play into the current meta. Basically, one Mud Slapper and it's pretty much GG's, but do stick around anyways because I was able to pull off some crazy wins. With that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Can you think of any other moves that share a common theme like the one in this video that you'd like to see me build a team around? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Shadow Gengar into Shadow Scizor. Not the most comfortable matchup for me, as they will be able to one-shield and fully farm me down. However, the opponent throws on CMP, which we're able to very comfortably win. So I'm able to grab a shield advantage. Definitely just going to take that advantage there. That's the best I can get out of this matchup. They go for Night Slash. They don't get the boost. And now Lucario can technically resist everything. However, we can go for Power Punch. We can actually boost up our attack stats straight away and also avoid taking any charge move damage. Now they come in with a regular for Alligator, so I'm going to shield here. Unfortunately, just barely outpaced before we reach a Thunder Punch, so now I'm going to look to overfarm as much as possible and throw a Thunder Punch on the CMP tie. Thunder Punch coming through. Thunder Punch is going to get the KO there, and their final Pokemon is a Furret. Now I go for a Power Punch expecting to grab a shield. They actually no-shield that, and whilst it is super effective, Thunder Punch would have done more damage, so I definitely should have just gone for the Thunder Punch. However, at this point, we have still probably put them into range where I don't need to throw any charge moves. Instead, I can commit to a full Bullet Punch farm down, and so I'm able to take that game. Into the next battle, GG to a trainer, by the way. We're going to see a Claydol in the lead. That is definitely not ideal for me, especially since they not only are dealing big damage with the fast moves, they're able to catch a Shadow Punch onto their Spidops. However, that's not too bad for me, as Lucario is going to double resist the charge move, so they fire off a lunge. Now here, I panic. I throw slightly early there. I thought they were at the charge move already, so that's just a mistake on my end. However, we go for Power Punch there, and maybe since I've boosted up my attack stat once again, they might shield this, respect the damage, and they actually do. It's just another Power Punch. Of course, Lucario charge moves were completely walled there, but the opponent wasn't to know. So at this point, we're going to come in with the Hitmonchan. They full send the Scorching Sands, and their final Pokemon is a Fortress, and of course, we've got access to Fire Punch. So at this point, I'm going to look to build up as much energy as possible. I was going to say, taking less damage from the fast moves here than up against the Mud Slaps. However, they have just debuffed my defense, but Fire Punch gets the one shot, as it's double super effective. I'm going for Ice Punch. And now I'm going to swap back into Shadow Gengar, get a simultaneous KO with those Sucker Punches, but we still had Hitmonchan in the back, and so I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there into the next battle, Unova Stunfisk in the lead. Another really tricky matchup for me, kind of just forced to stay in, at least initially anyways. If I can connect with a Shadow Punch, then I guess eventually I will swap out. However, I'm not going to be able to Bullet Punch farm them down with my Hitmonchan, so basically I'm just using this Pokemon as a damage sponge. Now the opponent's going to swap into Golisopod on Fury Cutter, and we're able to force a CMP tie here, firing off the Fire Punch. Fire Punch going to grab a shield at the opponent expecting a Thunder Punch. At this point, Aqua Jet gonna get the KO, but Fury Cutter is double resisted by the remainder of my team. So come back in with my Shadow Gengar. Now I'm gonna look to overfarm, throw on CMP once again, and Shadow Punch gets the KO. However, unfortunately, they come in with a Furret. I come in with Lucario, and I typically gonna completely wall the charge moves unless they're running Brick Break, which they are, and that is super unfortunate. That is gonna mean that they can come back in with Unova Stunfisk, and whilst I can just narrowly get the full farm down there, I don't reach another charge move. We're also not going to reach a move on the Gengar, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle, Shiny Shadow Tyranitar in the lead, very spicy, you love to see it. We're going to swap into Hitmonchan, and unfortunately met with a Ludicolo, which isn't ideal for me just because Bullet Punches are going to be resisted. Now, we can go for either charge move here. Both of these are going to be neutral. I go for Ice Punch just because Ice Punch is more common with the Hitmonchan. I don't want to give away my second charge move here. Not that it really matters, but either way, they let the next move go through. At this point, I think I just have to let the Hitmonchan go down. I'm actually going to come in with my Shadow Gengar, but they swap into a Gorgeist. And that is perfectly fine with me. That is literally where I want to see it, as the opponent just fully sacrifices it. They now come back in with the shiny Shadow Tyranitar. And again, I shouldn't need to shield this, but I will just shield anyways. It's the Stone Edge, that's double resisted, and the opponent is just going to concede the match. So, GG's opponent into the next battle, Shadow Gengar into Regidrago. So, not the most comfortable matchup for me, but we can go for a Shadow Punch straight away. I'm going to just narrowly outpace them here. I'm going to go for Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch is going to grab a shield, and then I swap into my Shadow Hitmonchan. Now, Hitmonchan, I would prefer to run it with Thunder Punch, and I mean, I did really consider it, but I did think, you know what, having 8 unique punches on the same team is really cool. So, we're running Fire Punch and Ice Punch. Fire Punch didn't really see too much utility outside of that one Fortress matchup, but either way, we go for another Ice Punch here. Ice Punch still does respectable damage, it has to be said, but unfortunately not quite enough damage to get the KO. At this point, I'm actually going to shield this just because I can guarantee that Sucker Punch lands, which is kind of what I needed to put them into range, where I can just Bullet Punch farm them down with Lucario and hopefully avoid taking any Incinerate damage whatsoever. At this point, they full send Dragon Energy. That is resisted, but it does big damage. Let's see, what is their final Pokemon? The opponent is going to wait out their Switch Lock in the full, and the opponent going to come in with a Shadow for Alligator, and unfortunately, I overfarm as much as possible, but Thunder Punch doesn't quite get the KO there. I think, actually, if they ended up coming in with the Talonflame instead, I could have overfarmed slightly, gone for a Power Up Punch, and then a boosted Thunder Punch would have got me the win up against for Alligator. But anyways, into the next battle. Awful lead matchup, made even worse as they come in with a Shadow Charm Granbull up against my Shadow Hitmonchan. We do respectable damage with those Bullet Punches, and we have put them into range where actually I can Bullet Punch farm down before they even reach a charge move. However, they're going to have Annihilate in the back, so just a full hard counter team so far. Is there anything we can possibly do? Well, we come back in with the Gengar. Of course, we're met with that Ferret, but we've got access to Drain Punch. Drain Punch is an awful charge move, but it actually ends up getting shielded there. I did not expect that. But now we can come in with the Lucario. I'm going to shield this. And if the opponent ends up going for back-to-back Swifts, maybe we've still got some play here. As if I could get a full farm down, maybe I could have won that game with a Thunder Punch. However, the opponent commits to the full fast move farm down. And unfortunately, I do lose that game. But into the next battle, we see Wigglytuff in the lead. The opponent's actually going to swap out of that matchup, which is fine with me because honestly, Gengar does not have a great matchup at all. So at this point, we're going to go and stay in this matchup, fire off a Shadow Punch into the Steelix, and I can reach a second Shadow Punch on the CMP tie. Shadow Punch number 2 is going to be double shielded here, so I am a little bit concerned if it is going to be a double ground type team. However, if it's a double steel team, then I should be looking fairly good with my Lucario in the back. So I'm actually going to no shield my Hitmonchan. They go for Psychic Fangs, they snipe with the Wigglytuff, but I'm able to react in time. I can now look to overfarm here. I will fire off that Thunder Punch before they do throw a charge move, and Thunder Punch does get the KO. Now let's see what their final Pokemon is going to be, a Carbink, and that is huge for me. Bullet Punch is double super effective, and also I can boost up my attack stat. Look at that damage from Lucario. I can just safely shield this up. Their Switch Clock is very likely about to be up, so they will be swapping back into the Steelix. I couldn't quite remember if I had a move on the Hitmonchan, but I go for Power Punch, and yes, we did have that Fire Punch already loaded. So Fire Punch gets the KO there. We can Bullet Punch, farm down the Carbink, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle, Shadow Gengar into Shadow Scizor once again. So once again, not ideal for me, just going to stay in, go straight for that Shadow Punch. This time, they do not throw on the CMP tie. Instead, going to look to just commit to a full Bullet Punch farm down. We can come in with our own Bullet Punch user, and they swap into a Shadow for Alligator. So this one, I'm going to look to overfarm just a little bit. Thunder Punch is going to grab the final shield, and at this point, the opponent will be throwing. But I have a slight energy advantage, which means I can throw the next Thunder Punch, winning CMP with Lucario, and Thunder Punch, super effective. It gets the KO from that range. They come back in with the Shadow Scizor, and I'm actually going to no-shield this as the opponent just goes for a Night Slash, but they swap into their final Pokemon, which is going to be a Blastoise. Now, I tried to throw on CMP, the opponent does not throw straight away, and unfortunately, I've only got resistant moves to throw here, so honestly, I might have been better off just not throwing at all, basically waiting for the opponent to throw some energy, but in the end, they didn't actually overfarm by that much. Here, I throw a power-up punch, and this is a mistake. I should have just overfarmed here because that doesn't quite get the KO, and then here I'm thinking, you know what, they definitely snipe with the Scizor, so I wait. but they did not swap out there, and that is such a shame because the opponent, they had the charge reef. I knew I needed that second charge reef to take out the Sizzle, but the opponent does not go for the snipe, and as a result, we end up losing that game. But GG to opponent into the next battle. We see Sableye in the lead. So again, not a great matchup for me. Going to be safe swapping into my Shadow Hitmonchan. And the opponent is going to allow me to outpace them here. So I go straight for Fire Punch. Fire Punch, going to be shielded. They farmed up a ton of energy. But you know what? I'm just going to no-shield this. And the opponent base with a foul play. They then swap into Dusclops, which isn't really ideal for me because this is still very problematic. However, we can go for Fire Punch. Fire Punch is going to connect. And now I'm going to come back in with my Shadow Gengar. Now, of course, I am going to have to double shield here as they will be reaching 2 Shadow Punches before I can fully Sucker Punch farm them down, but I will come out with a Charge Reef loaded, so it's not the end of the world. They go for Shadow Punch number 2. We get the full farm down. I'm going to go straight for Shadow Punch here into Sableye coming back in, and then I will be swapping immediately into my Lucario, and I'm actually able to make a catch there. So the opponent going to go straight for Foul Play once again. We are now going to look to over-farm, and I go for a Power-Up Punch, but the opponent makes a catch, but they catch onto Fire Ray, and that is fine with me. Now with a slight energy advantage, we can reach a Thunder Punch on the CMP tire. We are now boosted as well, so Thunder Punch gets the KO there. The opponent needs to commit to a farm down. They're not able to get it, and so I'm able to take that game. So, GG to opponent into the next battle. I see a Galarian Moltres in the lead. So, I'm going to swap into my Hitmonchan. I was thinking, you know what? They're going to shield anyways if I go for Ice Punch. Maybe I should just go for a Fire Punch just because they might try and make a catch there. And the opponent swapped into a Pokemon that literally, if I went for Fire Punch, that would have been the most satisfying thing ever. But I just didn't commit to it. And as a result, yeah, of course, they can resist the Ice Punch there. We come in with the Shadow Gengar. I can farm them down. And my Switch Clock is already up. We can now come in with a Lucario. And I can shield this, and then I should be able to get the KO here with a Thunder Punch. However, I'm expecting a shield, so I'm actually going to bait with a Power Punch, and the opponent's actually going to no-shield that, and oh my gosh, every decision I'm making at the moment is going the wrong way. And their final Pokemon is going to be a Magcargo. If we had Force Palm here, we could probably put them into range where maybe we could Sucker Punch farm them down, but unfortunately we do not. We have Bullet Punch, which is only neutral. The opponent comes out with a Charge Reef loaded. Rock Tomb easily takes out Shadow Gengar, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG to opponent there into the final battle of the video, leading into a Talonflame, so not the best lead matchup for me. And here, I'm actually going to go for a Drain Punch. I was hoping by going for Drain Punch, that will allow me to live the next Incinerate damage and reach a Charge Reef. But nope, they're going to swap out into Barrel. And this isn't that comfortable of a matchup for me because I am running Bullet Punch. Once again, that's going to be resisted damage rather than super effective. And as a result, I'm forced to throw a Charge Reef here. But Thunder Punch does just barely get the KO. Now, at this point, I'm actually going to shield my Lucario as they fire off the fly. That is not really ideal for me here, but I'm going to go for a Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch should be grabbing the final shield. Or actually, nope, never mind, they no shield. They come in, but they come in with a Shadow Claydol. And honestly, I can't see a win condition for me right now. The opponent is going to fire off the charge move, but the opponent is going to give me a lifeline as they fire off a Rock Tomb. I don't understand that play, but you know what? We have to go for Ice Punch. And the opponent expecting Gengar to have a charge reloaded, no shields, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.